Imagine being on your own podcast, chatting with Shaquille O'Neal, your mentor, and suddenly he starts praising your biggest rival. That's exactly what happened when Angel Reese had Shaq on her show, unapologetically Angel. What followed was a conversation full of shocking praise for Caitlin Clark, leaving Angel in a tough spot. This wasn't just a few compliments, it was a basketball legend, dropping truth bombs that could change the course of the WNBA rivalry between Clark and Reese. You can already feel the tension, right? Angel Reese, the dominant force in women's basketball, had her own podcast, Unapologetically Angel, and was sitting down with Shaquille O'Neal, a basketball legend. Angel likely thought this would be another fun conversation about hoops, mentorship, and perhaps a few stories from Shaq's legendary career. But then, unexpectedly, Shaq turned up the heat. But hey, here's the throwback. During the 2024 WNBA season, Shaquille O'Neal made it clear that Caitlin Clark is the real deal. After watching Clark in person during a game between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, Shaq was visibly impressed with her performance. He acknowledged her remarkable ability on the court, saying she can play from a basketball standpoint. She makes all the right plays, gets everybody involved, and she has that Steph Curry range. Given O'Neal's close bond with Reese, who he's described as a daughter figure, she might have expected some praise from him during her podcast appearance. However, what she may not have anticipated was Shaq's unwavering admiration for Clark. What happens when your mentor becomes a fan of your biggest rival? Shaq had been on the Caitlin Clark train for a while, but this time, on Angel's own podcast, things got real. When Shaq asked Reese why people loved Caitlin Clark so much, Angel, perhaps hoping to keep the conversation light, simply replied, "She can shoot threes from the logo." A fair response, but Shaq wasn't done there. Shaq took it further. "You know why I love Steph Curry? 'Cause I've never seen that before. He's doing stuff people have never seen before. Caitlin's doing stuff we've never seen before." His words hung in the air, and Angel's face went from calm to stunned. Can you imagine being in her shoes? Her mentor was now not only praising Caitlin, but comparing her to Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. Shaq admitted that he was once a hater, doubting if Caitlin Clark could make those impossible shots. But as he watched her hit them over and over, he had no choice but to acknowledge her greatness. And that's when things really got uncomfortable. What does it feel like to be told by your mentor that your rival is rewriting the game? The dynamic between Angel and Caitlin Clark had always been intense. But now, with Shaq openly expressing admiration for Clark, it felt like the rivalry had entered a new, more serious level. Angel, accustomed to Shaq's unwavering support, had to sit there as he gushed about Caitlin Clark's talent. That's got to sting a little, doesn't it? Shaq wasn't just dropping a few compliments. He went deeper. "If I say 10 times you're not going to hit that shot and you hit it, that means you're the truth." This wasn't just about one or two spectacular shots. Shaq was talking about consistency, about Clark delivering time and time again, in ways even he didn't expect. Why was Shaq going so hard for Clark? Could it be that Clark was proving herself to be more than just a one-hit wonder? She was becoming a cornerstone of the game. As Angel sat across from Shaq, what was running through her mind? The praise for Caitlin Clark felt like a challenge to everything Angel had worked for. It wasn't just a passing comment. Shaq's words were a blow to her ego and a reminder of the fierce competition in the WNBA. This rivalry had been simmering for years, dating back to their high school days. But now, with Shaq's public admiration for Clark, the intensity had reached a whole new level. But Shaq wasn't the only one showing love for Caitlin Clark. What happens when a WNBA champion publicly steps in to support your rival? Recently, Jonquel Jones, a WNBA star and Finals MVP, also came out in defense of Clark. In the midst of the drama surrounding Clark's fanbase, and after some online backlash, Jonquel took to social media to remind everyone of Clark's undeniable talent. Jones argued that players like Clark were part of a new generation of basketball stars who were changing the game in ways fans hadn't seen before. What did this defense from Jones mean for Caitlin Clark? It was just another sign that Caitlin Clark was not only earning recognition from fans, but also gaining respect from her peers. But now, Angel was stuck in the middle. How did it feel for her to be at the center of a growing wave of support for Caitlin Clark? Angel had already dealt with Shaq's praise for Clark, and now Jones was throwing her support behind Clark as well. That had to be a tough pill to swallow, especially considering how intense the rivalry between her and Clark had become. Still, Angel had to respect the fact that Caitlin Clark was no longer just a media darling. She was getting recognition from the most powerful voices in basketball. Did this growing admiration for Clark make Angel question her own place in the spotlight? But let's not forget, Angel Reese was no slouch. She was a dominant force in the WNBA, and despite all the praise for Caitlin Clark, Reese knew how to rise to the occasion when it mattered most. Was the rivalry between Angel and Caitlin a catalyst for both of them to push their games to new heights? Their competition made the game more exciting and kept pushing each player to be better. The intensity of the rivalry was what fueled the fire, and that's why fans couldn't get enough of it. Shaq wasn't done. He went even deeper into why he was so impressed by Clark. If I say 10 times you're not going to hit that shot and you hit it, that means you're the truth. It wasn't just about lucky shots anymore. This was about proving yourself consistently, and Caitlin Clark had done just that. Shaq's praise wasn't fleeting. It was a full-on recognition of greatness. And even though this was Angel's podcast, Shaq didn't hold back. Why did he choose this moment to speak so highly of Clark? Was he simply being honest about what he was witnessing, or was there something deeper at play? At the end of the day, what did this moment tell us about Shaq? It wasn't just a mentor praising a rival. It was a legendary figure in the basketball world acknowledging greatness wherever it appeared. Whether you were on Team Angel Reese or Team Caitlin Clark, one thing was clear. Both women were changing the game in their own ways. And Shaq wasn't the only who defended Clark. Recently, Jonquil Jones also stood for Caitlin Clark in her recent interview. The drama surrounding Alyssa Thomas and Caitlin Clark took a surprising turn during the WNBA playoffs when Thomas accused Clark's fan base of racism, a claim that sparked controversy. The situation escalated when, during a game, Thomas delivered a hard body check to Clark without facing any consequences, raising questions about inconsistent officiating and double standards. In response, Jonquil Jones, a WNBA champion and Finals MVP, stepped up to defend Clark. Jones criticized the narrative surrounding the accusations of racism, calling out the hypocrisy and lack of accountability in the league. She argued that the WNBA should protect its players and stop allowing baseless claims to overshadow the true spirit of the game, urging the league to take a stronger stance. So what happens next in this epic rivalry? One thing's for sure. The future of women's basketball is looking brighter than ever. As Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark continue to push each other to be better, the competition between them will only grow more intense. And with players like them leading the way, who knows where the next chapter in this rivalry will take us? One thing is certain, we're all going to be watching closely. So what did we witness when Shaq destroys Angel Reese on her own podcast over Caitlin Clark? Emotional damage at its finest. Shaq didn't just show up to support his friend, he came to tell it like it is. Caitlin Clark is doing things on the court that even basketball legends like Shaq can't ignore. And while Angel Reese is undoubtedly a star in the WNBA, the praise for Clark makes the rivalry even more intense. The whole episode of Angel Reese's podcast became a masterclass in how to acknowledge greatness, even if that greatness belongs to your competition. The tension, the respect, the raw emotion, it's all part of what makes the rivalry between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark so compelling. What do you think? Did Shaq cross the line? Or is this just the nature of being a true basketball fan? Let us know your thoughts below.